This was a great episode of The Walking Dead. So we have Season 6, Episode 9, No Way Out, which is also the title to Chapter 14. And this was a great freaking episode. It's exactly what it should have been, and more, because there was a lot of stuff happening that didn't happen in the comic books, and I loved it. And for anyone who's randomly coming across my channel finding this review, if you go back to my last review for the mid-season finale, I knew this was going to happen because I'd seen the scene from the comic books, and I was like, okay, what they did for their mid-season finale, instead of the mid-season finale being the crazy portion where it's like, holy crap, this is where it ends, it ended leading into the craziness, and I was like, I know that this, I assumed at least that that's what they'd done, and I was definitely right. I was like, I think the mid-season, finale is going to end up being the, more calm half, which still resulted in, some death because we still lost Deanna in that episode. And then they're all walking out, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that this episode is going to be the calm one, and then once we get our, mid-season premiere, which is this one finally, months after, it felt like forever. It always seems like it takes forever for this show. But this was going to end up being the crazy one. And it still took a while, because honestly, I thought it was going to be like they walked out and it would be within at least the first scene where they showed the group walking through, because the very first scene was an extended version of the sort of, after credit shot that we got for the mid-season finale. And I love the way that they did that. I thought that was actually really cool, because anyone watching the show by now has seen that promo, whether they saw it during Into the Badlands, which is how I first saw it because I actually liked that show, or they just waited and they saw it online and they'd seen the, sort of after credit scene. So I like the fact that they went through it, and it was like, alright, they do little flashes and stuff, like get out of the car, hand us your stuff, and then it goes from there. And they don't even say the Negan thing inside of the actual episode. Or he might have said that actually, like, your stuff belongs to Negan. But they flash through it, and then we get all new stuff, which I thought was very well done. I was like, it's cool that they did that, because any other time, it's like, oh, we get, like a full shot. Like, anytime we ever get, like, a sneak peek of something, typically, during The Talking Dead, we get a full shot, and that's exactly how it is. But they knew that, and I guess it's because, it's Negan, so it's like, everyone anyone knows that this is going to happen, even for people that don't know who Negan really is just yet. It's like everyone knows what's happening, so, quick flashes, and then new stuff, and freaking Daryl got even more amazing, because he was like, RPG, and he blew some people up on motorcycles. So that was, a great opening. And then we have just the chaos of this episode, and it was freaking great. Like, it was crazy how it happened, because I was seeing a lot of different stuff, because they actually titled it, No Way Out, like, Chapter 14 in this. And so throughout the episode, I'm like, okay, what is the same and what's different? And normally I'm like, oh, I remember that from the comics or this and that. But this is one of those really huge moments, kind of like the prison thing, which the prison thing was very, very different, the way that they did that, so I didn't really go back and forth too much, but this was almost identical to what they'd done with the comics, and I think the only thing that was different is the introduction of Negan's people. I think they'd already been to Alexandria by the time all the craziness happened, kind of, in this episode. And so I'm going through, it's like, okay, this is happening, that's happening, and we get two characters that get killed off in probably the craziest ways I've ever seen in this show. And it's like, alright, they're freaking out. The boy's freaking out. I don't care about the boy's name. I totally forgot. I don't remember his mom's name either. So I'm going to go with their comic book names. But Ron, I'm pretty sure they have the same names. But Ron, he's freaking out. And he's thinking about what Carol told him. It's like, oh, this is it. This is where it happens. So he's looking at all the zombies and stuff, and it's like, and they did some interesting clips in this episode too, because first they did it with him having like this, mental little flashback where he's thinking of what Carol said, and then they have just like random clips of zombies like right in front of the camera, just like blood shooting out and crap, and they're just all sorts of different stuff. And so he's freaking out, and then it stops, and he's like, oh crap, like I'm scared. I couldn't even tell what he was saying. He was speaking so low, but then it didn't matter, because a zombie just comes in off the side, like, boom, and just hits him, and then two others come in, and the second one was just, like, in his head. I was like, geez, that's really messed up. And it was just so fast, it blew my mind. And when I was going through, I was like, alright, I have to see, of course, how similar this is to the comics. And it was pretty much the same. It was like he freaked out, and then that was it. It was like the next thing, it was like, oh, you know, come on, like, you gotta, like, stop freaking out, come on. Next panel in the comic, he's getting bit. And then it's like, holy crap, this is happening. Oh, his mom's dead too. And then it's like, crap, that's happening. She's dead. And, you know, Rick, you know, has his emotional breakdown. And they had a much closer relationship in the comics. So, it was even crazier in the comic book, like, emotionally, you know, for him. But they did do what I was hoping that they would do, because I'm like, alright, some stuff they can keep in, some stuff they can obviously take out as their show. And I was wondering how to the letter it would be, at least specifically during that scene. I wasn't sure about some of the other stuff, because some things involve characters in very different situations. The stuff with Glenn isn't happening during this moment. You know, obviously, if that's not happening, then the stuff with Maggie isn't happening. So there are a lot of things that are going on around this, but this was like the big moment, and they did it exactly how I wanted them to, and that was follow the comics exactly, because it's insanely shocking. And so we have one boy, you know, the son, he gets killed off, the younger son, and then his mother gets killed off right after that, and she won't let go of Carl's hand. Rick is freaking out, and then he has to hack off her hand, and I was like, that's what I wanted to see, because that was kind of one of the crazier moments. That's probably like the number two moment, to me, at least, you know, looking at it, you know, all together, is that he had to chop her hand off in order to save his son. And she didn't say anything. They had it in the comic where she says, like, don't leave us, and she's like swarmed with, you know, but she's got walkers and everything just around her, so she's done for it. But she's like, don't leave us, and he's like, I'm sorry, and, you know, he has to hack her hand off to save Carl. And they kind of do that in this, and the way, oh man, the one thing I was like, I don't care what gets spoiled, because I heard, because I was in class earlier, and of course it's The Walking Dead, and some people were talking about it. Then my teacher was talking about it. I was like, well, I guess I gotta go pee, because I was like, I don't want to know 100%, even though I was pretty sure I knew what was happening. Especially once I saw the title, I was like, even though I haven't read this in like probably a year, over a year or something, I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember that as the title for one of the chapters. It seemed really familiar. So I was like, I don't care what gets spoiled. Like, I heard that the boy died. I was like, meh, whatever. The only thing I didn't want to know until seeing this episode that really mattered to me was that first picture I showed you guys, which was Carl actually getting shot. And I was so happy they did that, because I was like, it was one of the big questions. It's one of the biggest things. Like, there are probably two of the biggest questions out of everything they've done so far is, will Carl, you know, lose an eye, which has finally happened, and will Rick lose his hand? And I don't think they're going to do that, and that's mostly because Kirkman mentioned he kind of hated the fact that he did that, so I don't think that's ever going to happen in the TV show. But Carl did lose his eye in this episode, and it kind of blew my mind. I was like, that's the only thing I don't want spoiled. I don't care if I find out who lives or who dies. I just want to see for myself whether or not Carl gets shot in the eye. And he did. And it was a crazy scene. And I wish, because when it happened, I was just, like, when I was seeing stuff, and this makes me seem insane, but I was just happy to see certain things happen, and that was one of the things that made me happy. But I promise you, when I read that in the comic, and it's just like, and the way they did it where it ends, and instead of it being intentional, where Rick is about to get shot and Michonne saves him, which I thought was also very cool, and they kind of end off this trio of a family. Instead of it being that way, it was actually the character that Deanna plays, because in the comic books it's actually a guy that's the leader and his wife dies, and in this they kind of do a gender swap. So in the comic, that guy's still alive, and he's about to kill himself, but he realizes there are other people, you know, in this crazy swarm. And so he goes out and he's like, I'm going to help you guys. And he gets eaten, and he's just like wildly firing bullets off left and right. And he hits Carl in the eye as he's dying and trying to just help and, you know, pulling the trigger over and over again. So when it shows up, in the comics, and it's just like, holy crap, he's dead. Basically, everyone's dead. It's almost exactly like the show. Everyone died that was with him, and it's Rick, Michonne, and Carl. And it was just great. They did it perfectly, and I was very happy to see it happen that way. And when I first read it, I'm trying to find it. I wish I didn't let my little napkin fall out, but it was insane. It was just like, it was supposed to be simple, and it wasn't. It mass chaos, and everyone's just super screwed up. I'm trying to like shoot through this real quick, but there's a lot of madness in here. Okay, so bunch of bullets going off. This is like Guy Deanna. We'll do it that way. He's getting eaten. Bullets all over the place. And then this is Rick down here, just like, is everyone? And then there's a question mark. Full 2 freaking pages of this. And that's what I saw, and I was just like, I think like a lot of people, I'm assuming, based on the way it looks in the show, I wonder how many people thought he died from that. Because when I saw this, and he's got this nice open space that looks like a bullet went like right through his head, I thought he was dead. Like, I thought he died when I first saw this, and I turned this page and it's just that in my face. I was like, he's dead. And I didn't know, because I somehow managed to not have a bunch of spoilers for the comics, so that tends to be nice. But I thought he was gone. I thought he died when I first saw this. I thought he was dead. And then, it's just him crying. This is Rick, by the way. This is what he looks like in the comics. And it was great. And when I saw that, I was like, they did it. And they did the line and everything. They did all he says is dad. But he does that. He passes out. And, Rick and Michonne have to go through like crazy. And then we have all this other extra stuff going on around. I spent 12 minutes just talking about that one scene. But it was the scene of the episode for sure. But to kind of shoot through some of the other stuff, we have Carol, who's super pissed at Morgan, and she also had a really interesting moment, and I don't know what it means, but when she saw that wolf actually take a dive, like, he was already dying anyway because she shot him, but he clearly took a dive to get, to tackle the zombie and have the rest of the little horde kind of take him down so that they'd all be distracted. Carol kind of had to look like, that was really weird. Like, why did he do that? Because she didn't understand what was happening. And neither did I. I mean, he already did it once, and he gets bit. And then he does it again. I mean, he was shot the second time, so it made even more sense. But the first time, he was totally free. He didn't have to go back, but he definitely did. So that was definitely a weird moment. I was like, I can't believe that just happened. And then he actually dies, and then... Excuse me, I love how they kind of did that, and we get Morgan at the end once everyone decides to join in and just start wiping, this horde out. Morgan, of course, finally has that moment, and I'm wondering if they're going to have a weird switch where Carol, maybe not nearly as much as Morgan, where it's like 100% pacifist, no one dies type of thing, but I think they might do it that way, where at least a little bit she'll consider leaving certain people alive, but it would have to be like an extreme case, because, I mean, she talks about, like, I should have killed you. Like, she's talking to Morgan, who's supposed to be a part of their group, and she's like, I should have killed you so that I could have killed him. And she said that, I believe, in the mid-season finale, like, I will hurt, or basically, I will kill you just so that I can kill him. And she kind of reiterates that, like, I should have killed you so that I could have killed him, and we wouldn't have been in this, crazy circumstance. But I don't know. I mean, I thought that was an interesting moment where it's like she's kind of just stuck. Like, why would he do that? Like, it was clear what he'd done in those last moments, and it's just like, why would this guy who randomly, with a bunch of his friends, randomly attacked us, why would he switch, at the last minute? So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Morgan has his moment where it's still just, he killed the already dead version of him, so I don't know if that really counts. But he did knock him out, and he apologized and stuff. But I liked how they did stuff at the end, and everyone kind of joins in together, which is also kind of the same for the comic. It's not, I think it's only main characters in the comic. I have to kind of go back and see again, but I think pretty much what they do in here is, like, it's just everybody. It's pretty much main characters. It's not even because there's one guy in there that I was like, I don't know who that guy is. I don't really remember him. And some of the people I recognize more, like the guy that was with, or the guy that was like in the church and stuff. I recognize him more, and yet he didn't go out there. So I thought that was actually a little bit interesting. But it was really cool. And there's a nice little shot in here. Like all of this is like pretty much all the characters kind of fighting and everything like that. I'm probably not going to get monetization because I'm just showing off the comic, but technically it's under free rights usage for reviews. And that's kind of how this ends in the comic. So they just start wiping stuff out, and it's super cool. And it's pretty much all the main characters and stuff. I mean, it's the comic, so there's never really extras in the comic until, it's just somebody dying. But it followed a lot of the really key moments of this chapter, and I love that. Like, just from beginning to end, if you can somehow find, well, you can find it online, but if you find chapter 14, No Way Out, it's basically 100% this episode, and then this episode has extra stuff because of characters that don't even exist, like Sasha. Of course, Daryl doesn't exist in the comic books, and I can't think of the girl's name that's with Glenn. I want to say it's like Edith or something like that. I don't know. But she doesn't exist in the comics either. So there's a lot of extra stuff that goes on. And I'm very excited for what they're going to be doing next. It seems like it's definitely going to be a Rick Daryl episode in the next one. But we got Negan coming in. I'm very excited for that. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is playing him. So I can't wait to see that happen because I really like him as an actor. And it'll be interesting because Negan drops like an F-bomb every 0.25 seconds in the comic books. Like he just drops the F-bomb like people say damn. So I think they can say shit on AMC, so he'll probably be saying that a lot until they like reach their maximum possible limit. But this was a really great episode. I'm very curious how they're gonna do Carl with like the CG and all that stuff, or if they're gonna keep him in bandages, which I doubt they will. But he'll probably be in bandages for quite a while because he's in bandages and for a very long time in the comics until he finally wakes up. But I think it'll be much faster in the show. But at the same time, it might not be. Who knows? But really great episode. The final thing I wanted to talk about that really was a great touch for connections to the comic was the very ending where Rick is talking to Carl. And he says the line, "I want to show you this new world." And I thought that was really cool. I was like, alright, he said that. He didn't say, he does say, like, the whole first line is in this comic. It's like, I want to show you a new world, or this new world. I want to make it a reality for you. And the only thing that he doesn't say is live so that I can show you. He does say, please, Carl. And then, I forgot exactly what he said in the show, but he says, like, live so that I can show you. And I thought it would have been perfect if they just followed it exactly, because personally I think what he says in the comic saying like please live was a bit more personal as well. It wasn't just like, oh, it ties into the comics at the end. I think what he said in the show, I think he stops at please Carl, and then they go right to Carl kind of squeezing his hand. But I really would have liked it if he said please live, because I mean he's obviously had like some crazy moments in the show, but he's never had one like this. And I think that was kind of the perfect line, is to just ask his son, like, please live. Because, above all else, he is technically the only family he has left. And I kind of wish he did go with that. I wish they went with that exactly from the comic, because I just felt it was a bit more personal than just ending with, please, Carl. But it was still great. It definitely followed in line with the comic. And it was a great moment for him in general. And what he adds, which I don't believe they have in here in the comics, is him mentioning the hospital. Like he hadn't felt that way since he woke up in the hospital. So I really loved that too. I thought that was really good, and it showed like, there are just obviously a million different emotions. It was like, I see how we can actually work with these people, and how it's all of us and not just our people and their people sometimes working together. It's all of us truly together. And, the fear and the hope and you know, all of it just kind of wrapped up into one crazy moment. Just after all this chaos, and now he's just there with his son. So definitely an amazing episode. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Whether you've read the comics or not, especially, actually, I definitely want to know for anyone who didn't read the comics, because like I said, when I first read the comic, I was blown away. I thought Carl was dead. I thought he was done for, and that was it. I thought he died. But I want to know what you guys thought about it. I want to know if you guys thought he was dead, for anyone who didn't read the comics, for anyone who did. I want to know, just, did it live up to what you wanted it to be? Because it basically did exactly what I thought it was going to do. And I'm totally fine that I knew what was going to happen. And I think this is really the first time they've done done an episode and done an event from the comics so closely, in live action. And I totally like that. This is one of the few moments where it kind of needed to be, verbatim, pretty much from what it already was. And I don't mind that at all. It was almost a complete retread, but this is one of those moments that shouldn't be changed. Like, some moments in this comic just shouldn't be changed whatsoever, and I think this was one of them. And I'm glad they didn't change it up. They just added extra stuff in. Some things were slightly switched around because of where the characters were, but for the most part, it was basically 100%. And I loved it. But like I said, whether you read the comics or not, definitely if you didn't, I want to know how surprised you guys were. But please, what you thought about the episode in general, I want to know. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.